Foreign Minister of Ukraine, Dmytro Kuleba, began his tour of African countries with a visit to Equatorial Guinea. The head of Ukrainian diplomacy met with the President of the Chamber of Deputies and the head of the Senate of Parliament, and also held talks with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the country.
The first visit of Kuleba, which was last autumn, was very successful, but it was partially interrupted due to the Russian shelling. In the spring there was another visit, quite successful. East Africa in particular, a successful visit to Ethiopia, where Kuleba met with the President of Ethiopia. This is such a significant factor for many African states.
The head of Ukrainian diplomacy also met with the President of Equatorial Guinea. The main topics of the talks are the development of bilateral relations, the peace formula of President Zelenskyy, and the food security of African countries.
I was honored to be received by President Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo in Djibouti today. I reiterated Ukraine's desire to move forward our relations with Equatorial Guinea. We focused on bilateral cooperation. Dmytro Kuleba, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on Twitter.
Special representative of Ukraine for the Middle East and Africa, Maxim Sub, called on Egypt to support the Ukrainian formula of peace and join international efforts to resume supplies of Ukrainian grain to the African continent during a telephone conversation with the Deputy Foreign Minister of Egypt.
Ukraine remained a reliable guarantor of the food security of the Arab Republic of Egypt and other countries of Africa and the Middle East owing to the Black Sea grain corridor. This initiative allowed the delivery of more than 1.4 million tons of agricultural products to Egypt, from a message on the website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine.
The President of Ukraine held the first telephone conversation in the history of bilateral relations with the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Abiy Ahmed Ali discussed Russia's unilateral withdrawal from the grain agreement, the Federation's illegal blocking of navigation in the Black Sea, shelling by the Russian army of Ukrainian granaries and port infrastructure, as well as preparations for the Global Peace Summit.
As part of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, Ukraine sent almost 300,000 tons of food to Ethiopia and another 90,000 tons of grain as part of a separate Grain from Ukraine initiative. Ukraine is still ready to remain the guarantor of world food security. It is necessary to create a platform for dialogue with African countries. The voice of Ethiopia, the African Union, all of Africa is very important to us. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Representatives of African states plan to speak about the need to unlock grain corridor at the Russia-Africa Summit in St. Petersburg, analysts say. They plan to discuss at the summit their initiatives to achieve peace in Ukraine with the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, reported by Financial Times, citing South African officials. But whether such a discussion will be productive is the big question.
The Russia-Africa Summit is already the second. The first was in 2021, but then there were completely different conditions in the world and around Russia. Therefore, it is very important who will come there, who will ignore this event, and what will be the attitude of the African states to the statements that Russia will provide. Therefore, now is a very important visit of Kuleba to African countries.
Most African leaders refused to participate in the Russia-Africa Summit. Only 17 out of 54 African countries will be represented at the level of head of states. Delegations of 10 African countries will be headed by prime ministers. Almost half of the summit participants send delegations at a lower level. 17 of them are headed by vice premiers and ministers, 5 are represented by ambassadors, 5 more refuse to participate in the event. Reported by Anastasia Tarnavska, Yulia Bil, UATV News.